Welcome to Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, a podcast for people who are ready to clear the physical, the mental, and the emotional clutter that's been weighing them down. I'm Melanie Cohen, your host, coach, and guide. Each week, we talk about the clutter you can see and the clutter you can't. The stuff in your home, the noise in your head, the expectations, habits, and unmade decisions that quietly drain your energy. This isn't about perfection or minimalism. It's about creating space for what actually matters in this season of your life. Let's lighten up together, starting now. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free, the podcast where we talk about all things clutter. I have a special guest today, and I'm so excited for it. I am going to start with her bio. I have Nancy Smith, and Nancy has been obsessed with recycling, upcycling, and waste pretty much her whole life. She believes her first upcycling project was a Barbie camper that she fashioned out of a discarded truck of her brother's. We have to talk about Barbies. She painted it pink and made a tent out of an old towel. After a long career as an art director, she started Floral Avenue Designs, a sustainable design business. Floral Avenue is a smash-up of her three loves: fashion, collage, and zero waste. Her designs are crafted from street finds, embellished with inventory from years of thrifting, scavenging, and grandmother's leftovers. She calls her technique clothing collage because rather than restructure garments, she covers flaws with a myriad of materials, visibly mends and combines damaged pieces. She loves clashing fabrics and unexpected juxtapositions. What she adores about upcycling and visible mending in particular is the spontaneity. One never knows how a garment will evolve. Visible mending by design is imperfect. She goes one step further, embracing flaws with embellishments and cheeky patching, shouting, "Hey, this is mended." Nancy, thank you for being here today.
Hey, I like your jacket.
We might talk about that a little. You know what? First, I want to talk about Barbies, because Barbies.
Huh?
My grandmother, whose work you're familiar with, because I brought a whole lot of things that she made for me when I was a baby, has potential use in the garments that you upcycled for me. And she used to make me and my Barbies matching outfits.
Oh my gosh.
Like if I got corduroy gauchos and a corduroy vest, 1970s, she made a corduroy vest and corduroy pair of gauchers for my Barbie. She made this very fancy gold dress for my Barbie and for me, noting that the Barbie's was like a little sexier than mine was. Like she was doing age appropriate. I wish I don't have the Barbie clothing anymore. I think that when I passed my Barbies along, because they did not get thrown out, they got given to the next younger girl in our lives. I think the clothing went with it. And I'm a little sorry that I don't have at least some of those things. So I appreciate your
I have a similar story that my aunt. Yeah. I often say my aunt and my mother would have rocked Etsy if they had been just a little bit younger, because they were such, just such creative women. But my aunt made me and my sister like with fur collars and, like evening coats and bell bottoms and the whole. And of course, I don't have them either. It would be so fun to have those.
At least we have the memories, right?
Yes.
At least we have the memories. Okay. All right. So let's talk about my jacket a little bit, because I don't normally wear a jacket for an episode, but here we are. I am wearing one of my favorite purple or lavender denim jackets that I bought thrift and got fairly cheap, like in great condition. And I brought it to Nancy. And Nancy did beautiful work. First of all, if you are listening to this episode, this would be a great episode to catch the video of. And you can get the video on Substack, on YouTube, and on Spotify. But above the pocket, she got me some sugar skulls, because anybody who knows me also knows that I am a sugar skull girl and have a sugar skull tattoo. Maybe I'll just put that in the show notes. And we've got some little sugar skulls on this is just amazing. And I'm going to turn around for a second. Everybody can see the piece of fabric that Nancy put on the panel. Can you see it, Nancy? Okay, cool. That beautiful Hawaiian fabric that was made for this jacket that we found in Nancy's studio.
It was a pair of, as I recall, it was a pair of pajama bottoms that I had already cut pieces out of and I'd found on the street. So you saw it and you just loved it.
Perfection.
Yeah.
Perfection. So I'll show the pants later. Let's go back. Instead of talking about the clothing exactly, let's talk about Nancy for a little bit. Where do you think this came from?
I've never thought of it. I just know that I've been obsessed with waste pretty much my whole life. I did come from a very thrifty Midwestern family. I was raised in Ohio. The name of my company is Floral Ave, and that's because I grew up on Floral Avenue, and that's where my grandmother taught me to sew, and my mother taught me to embroider and dye and all those things. And we were just thrifty. We didn't throw things out. I mean, it was just that kind of culture. It wasn't like we were poor. We weren't super rich, but but my mother was very into sustainability even way, way back. And a neighborhood that wasn't, talked about or anything, but she would reuse plastic bags and, food was always, kind of recycled or used, you never let a ham bone go to waste. You always made pea soup or whatever. So they were just, I think it was, I don't think my brother and my sister are like me. So I can't say it was nature and nurture, I think. And then the pandemic is when I started the little business and really started sewing again. But I've been, doing projects with things like buttons and picking things up off the street for my whole life. It's just gotten kind of crazy in Brooklyn because Brooklyn is so just the heaven for people who love cast-offs.
Yes.
Right. And I think I'm funny in that I hate waste, but I love stuff, I love stuff. I don't like clutter.
It is a dichotomy that is allowed to exist, right?
I mean, I don't
Both
like
can be at the
clutter,
same-
but I just can't walk by something on the street without looking in the bag. People are just used to it. They're just, gosh, here she goes. We're going to be late to the movie because Nancy's ruffling through the bags. So
I love that. So I hear your story and I hear your ham bone is, my grandmother's chicken carcass, Jewish family. There wasn't a ham bone and like nothing went to waste. And my mother often talks about, some of this, stems from my grandmother and grandfather being Depression era. And my grandmother would be sent to the fruit cart guy and ask for all of the things that were rotting because they couldn't even afford fresh. And somehow my great-grandmothers, who I never had the opportunity of meeting, found ways to make real food out of that stuff. And one of the things that we often hear from Depression era individuals is that often later they are the ones who do the hoarding because you never know when, your next meal is going to come from. Often, that leads to issues with clutter because, hanging on because you just never know. And my grandmother wasn't that person. She bought just enough. I mean, like when she did a holiday meal, there was always, a ton of leftovers, but it was expected that those leftovers were either going to get eaten in the same form or they were going to get turned into something else. And so, I hear a lot of that in the story. And my grandmother didn't get rid of a single button or, scrap of fabric, yarn, whatever it was. They got used. So it wasn't in excess. She was a really kind of organized, on the ball woman who I still don't understand, worked full time, commuted, and did everything, all food from scratch. There were no frozen dinners at her house. And she sewed, she knit, she crocheted, she needle pointed, like she made everything. I'm exhausted thinking about that lifestyle that once was, for sure. I grew up in a house where there was as little waste as possible in the 70s before there were recycling programs. We recycled everything. My mother would, tie up all the newspapers and pack up all of the cans and bottles. And we went down under the West Side Highway. There were other hippies there sorting through all the recycling. I don't know what happened to the stuff after that. I was also sent to school with garbage bags full of toilet paper rolls and paper towel rolls and brought them to, the art teacher to utilize in class. So things did not go to waste growing up. I don't think there were thrifters really in my family until me. Or at least I don't remember, or no one, was talking about it. And I think for me, it was that I really dug vintage stuff.
Mhm.
I really liked things that were cool that you could not find
Mhm.
at Gap, although Gap, I feel like, was in its infancy, or, Macy's or Bloomingdale's or Stearns or B. Altman's or Gimbel's or any of the old stores that people in
Mhm.
New York remember. So I loved doing that. So it was all about what the fashion was. I got
Mhm.
reintroduced to thrifting when my kids were young, and I was like, clothing is expensive. What else is out there? And then invigorated the whole like looking for
Mhm.
vintage, what you can't find other places. And the sustainability has more recently become so important to me. We see
Mhm.
so much going to waste, so much fast fashion in ways that did
Mhm.
not exist in our childhoods. And
Right.
so I love talking to people who say, well, wait a minute, I don't just care about fashion, I care about the planet.
Yes. And that my mother was like that. I mean, it was not
Mm,
cool in the neighborhood we lived in. It was, nobody I knew was, had a mother that was saving jars, and she wouldn't use, famously, she was the only person in the neighborhood that wouldn't use, back then it was like Chemlon or something. It was some kind of thing that killed the dandelions. So we would be the only one with the dandelions in our yard. And they, of course, were going to seed and, blowing in everyone else's yard. But she refused. She wouldn't, she was very into not only sustainability, but ecology and what we called ecology back then.
right.
So yeah, she, as I said, she reused all the plastic bags, the paper bags, and we didn't even have paper towels because she didn't think they were evil, but they were just kind of wasteful and
Right.
killing
Right.
trees. You just used
We have paper towels in our
washcloths.
house for those things that, like, you just wanna get rid of, but we have reusable towels in the kitchen,
Yeah.
for, your basic cleanups and stuff like that, and I think that every once in a while, I have people come to the house and they're looking for the paper towels, and I'm like, "They're right there. They're
Yeah.
fabric. You
Yes.
can use that, just don't put it in the garbage."
Yeah. I have them now, but my mother was not a fan of paper towels. So yeah, I
I
have a
hear
lot
you.
to owe my mother and my grandmother. Um,
Cool. That's cool. So remind me, you have 3 kids,
I
right?
have 3 daughters, yes.
And they're
And
how
none of them,
old?
they are 25, 22, and about to turn 20.
And what do they think of your work?
The youngest is into it. The youngest really likes it, and she's a big champion. My desk has all these lovely little cards and things that she makes me every time there's every Mother's Day, every birthday. She makes me cards like this one with whoops. She always puts little things on
Mm,
it, and it always says something about for a laugh.
I love that.
Always. So the older two are more STEM. They're more sciencey. They wear sports clothes. They don't really shop in thrift stores. So they don't really get it. I mean,
It may
you
not
know.
be for everybody. You made me think of something.
Hmm.
My birthday was last month, and I only throw parts of cards away.
You
I
use
save
the
the
front.
cover, right? So that you
Hmm.
can use them as cards
Hmm.
or postcards at another time. And I'm not embarrassed to say I got the idea from Martha Stewart for what it's worth. I got it from her, and it was holiday cards. And my gosh, duh, you know,
Because
like just
you
turn
can
them
make them
into
into postcards. They're just like postcards.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that kept me, although I try to communicate, like, don't even wrap things anymore. Like, if we're wrapping something, it's only because it's the gift bag that has been used 12 times already,
Yes.
And some of them have the person's name on it, and you're like, I'll just take it back for next year.
Yes. Or the
But
wrapping
I
paper.
also,
Wrap it. Mom don't tear it. Be careful with that tape.
right,
Guess we're gonna
exactly.
fold it back up and use it next year.
I love that. Okay, so, but how did you get to now selling your wares or your art? Because it's art.
Well, it started during the pandemic. I first started with jewelry, pulling old necklaces. I think I had a bunch of old necklaces. And these are things that I had made. Like I had made some necklaces over the years and worn them. I was very into like layering necklaces and such, and things with buttons, button pictures, button bracelets. And then and then I did some sweaters with buttons around, and then I started an Etsy shop, and then it just kept going. And that's the fun thing about finding stuff on the street. rather than thrifting, because thrifting, you go in and you go, I want to buy jean shorts. The thing about finding stuff on the street is that, like, I found a pair of cutoff shorts and that started the collaging. I just started collaging on them and sewing things on them. And then I started doing denim jackets, and then I amassed this stuff. And so I just started doing flea markets. I mean, now I have to do them, either pop-ups or flea markets, because I have so much stuff. I can't stop. I just love doing it, but I don't do anything twice unless somebody asks me to, unless somebody says, oh, I want that in, can you make that in my size? Then I'll do that. But I don't, people said you'd make more money if you, recreated the things that sell well. I'm like, yeah, I could. But then it just isn't as fun.
And for the wearer, I mean, my jacket and my jeans are custom. No one else is going to have them. And while from the jacket, we used all materials in your studio that you have collected over time, my jeans had some of that. But I mean, when I brought this to you, when I brought you this dress, or it had been a dress, but now it's more
I
like
just
a vest.
love those colors so much.
She was amazing. So I said, I want this on my jeans, because you did have a pair of jeans when you did a little pop up in your house, and there was a pair of jeans that had this on the cuff. And I was like, oh, yeah, me too, me too.
Yes.
But no one is going to have it with this.
Right. No. And that
No one
means
is gonna
something
have
to
it
you.
with
That's the nice thing about upcycling, and also especially those, because that is something that means something to you, and you could never fit into that tiny little kid's top. But
on one arm.
Yes. But now you can wear it and remember your grandmother every time you put it on. And I love the idea of, finding things and just wondering, like, yes, we're giving them a second life. We're keeping them from the landfill. But at the same time, they have a story. Everything has a story.
100%. What I love is things in your studio, ended up matching really well. We have this beautiful, I think you said these were dish towels that those patches came.
Yeah.
And the colors and everything were like, I mean, it was perfect. I do have to tell you, so I made a video of me wearing them and telling the story and sent it to my cousin and my mom and my aunt. And my cousin, the first thing she said was, well, Grandma wouldn't have approved of anything on the butt.
That's funny.
I said, that's good. She's not here to yell at me. I think also my cousin is almost 20 years younger than I am, and she had a different grandmother than I had.
No.
She had a very different because a 20-year difference, makes a big difference in someone's life. But one of my favorite stories to tell about my cousin, I hope she's listening. My grandparents had retired to Florida, and my aunt and uncle subsequently moved to Florida with the kids. And so my grandmother was retired. Now she really had time to do things. And she was reupholstering my aunt's couch for her by hand, which to me is right. And one day she came back and my cousin had pulled out all of the pins where my grandmother had placed the fat. Oh, I am so glad that when that happened, I was living in New York. Because I'm pretty sure everyone could hear my grandmother yelling,
oh my
what
gosh,
did
it would
you
have taken
do,
forever. Oh my gosh.
And it did. So anyway, I love that you do things by hand. I know, like, knitting got a resurgence during the pandemic. I think other kinds of activities or hobbies like that did. I never learned how to knit or sew or needlepoint or crochet or anything like that. And when I was younger, it didn't matter because I was training as a gymnast. I was in the gym 4 or 5 hours a day. There was no time for that kind of stuff. There is a little bit of regret on my end, and I know it's not too late to learn. I'm just not, I don't think I have the mental fortitude for doing something that would take that much like attention and that much ability to fail, as opposed to being like, I'm going to knit whatever right away and I'm going to be great at it. So I appreciate the people out there like you who not only do it and do it well, but you have an eye that other people don't have. And
Oh, thank you.
that's what's beautiful about all of the things that you bring home, because you bring to home things that other people would be like, "What are you gonna do with that? That's just junk." And then all of a sudden you make these amazing creations out of them. Where do you think that inspiration comes from?
Gosh, trying to think back to my mom and my grandmother. I mean, I went to design school, so I'm trained as a graphic designer, and I'm a creative director at the I'm still working, so I have that design eye. I've always loved collage. I just love collage. I've done collages over the years, and I did a lot of collage in my work as a student, and I taught for a while and, was really into collage. So I just have always loved fabric. I love texture. I love pattern. And to build on something you were saying, thing I like about upcycling, and I know that was in my little blurb intro, is that I can embrace the imperfection because I'm not a perfectionist. I'm just not that person. My grandmother would make the most gorgeous seams and she would make suits and think, I can't follow a pattern. I'm not a rule
Mm.
follower. I can't stand reading directions. I'm much more like, figure it out myself, when it would save me a lot of time if I just looked in the appendix and found out like how to, what's wrong with the machine. But anyway, and it's kind of like also, I think a lot of much, like I like much, I like a lot. So it's a way to use all these different things together. Like I can use the buttons and I can use the funny plastic dinosaurs and that I find on the street, or the Barbie shoes, or the crochet pieces or fabric. So there is a way to kind of pull them all together. But I guess it's a kind of a combination of, my mother wasn't, very artistic and creative. And then also, design school and just, keeping, just this sort of now obsession with making stuff.
I do appreciate that you call it an obsession.
It is. I can't
At least
stop. I take it on
cool.
vacation. I take it on vacation. I always take a project. If I go on jury duty, I take a project,
Well, I
I
would hope
don't.
so. For that at least. I bring a book, but
Hmm.
I think one of the things that I'm hearing from you is that my friend Felicia and I are not going to be the only ones who benefited from your art, because I don't know how people see your stuff and not want it. One of the things that I talk about when I talk about like removing clothing clutter is that I love colors and patterns and textures just like you do. And so
Hmm.
you open my closet and it's just like, whoa, there's a rainbow, but then there's like a lot going on in the rainbow. And, some people, when they talk about decluttering, talk about like capsule wardrobes, which sounds so
So
utterly
dry.
boring to
Yes,
me,
dry.
but also provide some people with clarity and calm and ease when it comes to both getting dressed, when replacing items, when adding items, when knowing when to let go of items. That's just never going to be me. So I
Hmm.
can't, so there are going to be some people that look at your work and say, oh, it's a little too much for me. That's fine. There are plenty of the rest of us out there that are like, wait a minute. Did she sew a Barbie shoe on to a knit sweater? Why, yes, she did. And can there be anything better? Or more importantly, that you're doing that in adult clothing, not in children. Like we expect to
Hmm.
see stuff like that in children's clothing, but why can't I have a Barbie shoe on my sweater? Why can't there be, a dinosaur on my shirt or whatever? What is what's the weirdest thing that you've made?
Gosh,
Or
weirdest.
is there a weirdest because you just keep going with it?
Because I don't think I make. I mean, I think the Barbies, the sweaters with the Barbies and the dinosaurs. I had one with a matchbook car and an army men. People, I don't know. You either like it or you don't, the army men. But I remember them from my brother.
Right.
So I think some of this stuff appeals to people of a certain age because wow, Zots. I remember Zots. I do put the candy wrappers on things. So I guess this sweater, I might come back to you and say, oh, wait,
I
I
know.
made something. It might have sold a long time ago and I don't
Right.
remember it, but
Right.
but I just think of them as kind of like cheeky, like whimsical, like,
Yeah.
like a little bit of a sense of humor, most of it.
You know what's so interesting? I was watching a YouTuber that I like to watch who's also like a big sustainability person. And she did an episode the other day about influencers promoting Whimsy right now. But
Mhm.
they're talking about Whimsy and like a whole lot of like, how do you add Whimsy into your day, things that you do, things that you consume. And they talked briefly about like, clothing and decorations and what a house looks like. And, like one of my guilty pleasures, I talk about this all the time, is I love watching all of not all of them, but the design shows.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And I like it when they're doing a Victorian or a craftsman or a Tudor or something that feels like it has whimsy to it, I guess, since we're using that word, but creativity, not a
Like a
modern
personality.
home.
I think what you're saying is like a
Yes.
personality.
Oh, that's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. We have very close friends that have this beautiful, monstrous modern home. And it's beautiful, but it's not my style. I'm like, I have no qualms in saying that. And so I love watching the shows when they're restoring,
Mhm.
150-year-old home and not like ripping it out and making it
Mhm.
all white inside, but keeping the built-ins and
Mhm.
keeping the stained glass and keeping, the moldings and the stairway and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so you have currently your career and you're doing that on the side. What happens next?
I would really love. Well, I'm teaching classes. I have one coming up in May. So if you want to learn to do any of the things I do, I'm doing a denim upcycling class in May on May 16th in my studio. But I'm going to be doing more over the summer and the flea markets. But I really want to have a shop. I really do. I really want to get a little teeny shop and maybe, with other upcyclers or um I met you through Danielle, maybe, a jewelry maker or something, kind of like maybe a little bit of a collective. I don't know how realistic it is, but that's kind of what I would love to do.
So I love the concept of teaching because you cannot save every piece of fabric, every button, every embellishment, every, bolt of lace or
Hmm.
whatever it is. So helping people do that for themselves to me is honorable, admirable, and cool, all at the same time. So I haven't figured out exactly when this episode is dropping, but will you do another class after the May one?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Cool. Then we'll just make sure that we get that into the show notes because I have a feeling that there are going to be some people who are New York area people that might actually be interested in taking a class with you. Do you have any items that you would like to show off while we're talking?
Sure. Well, I can just show you. First of all, I have a sweater on, a vest on that I have darned. This was one of my favorite vests, and
Ugh,
it got eaten by moths. So it has now a lot of
I love those.
and I do it on purpose in bright colors. It doesn't on the screen,
Right.
it doesn't look super bright, but I do. This is called darning. This is a jacket that I upcycled. And this is a good example of the collaging. And there's the
Right.
good old zots.
And the buttons, the sparkly buttons.
This is a skirt that I made out of old linen, old tea towels.
I have a friend who bought a skirt that looks just like that.
Yeah, it looks a
Or
lot
not just like
that.
it. It has its own fabric, but it's the same.
Yeah. And this is, kind of a staple of mine. I find a lot of denim on the street. And just, this had some real wear on the butt.
That's how you save it.
Yeah.
That's how
Oh,
you save it.
yeah. That's a little
I love it.
smattering of what I do. But as I said before, I don't really do a lot of things twice. I mean, I've done a couple denim jackets and I've done a ton of shorts and sweaters, but they don't, it's not a pattern
There's
that I
similarities in
replicate.
how they're designed, but using different fabric and other things.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I love about the vest that you're wearing is that a moth hole is devastating. And so many people say, well, I can't wear this anymore.
I
And
know. I really
it's
have to tap
cost.
into that. I definitely have to tap in to the people who are throwing out their things with moths because good sweaters are hard to find with mouth holes. I think people ditch them. I think they throw them away. You can't find them in the thrift stores.
Right. And I mean, it does mean, reframing some people's thoughts on what things are supposed to look like,
Mhm.
And so the way you mend that is, the way you mend a sock, right?
Mhm.
The darning, it's just meant to extend the life of something. But to then take it in an artistic way, because some people are going to look at that and be like, oh, that looks messy. And others of us are going to be like, what a beautiful way to restore it. And how cool is it? Because I mean, come on. Like, how much do they sell a pair of jeans that are all ripped up, that they ripped up for you?
Right. And think about what that does to the environment. The jean
Right.
industry is really, really, it's so toxic.
Years ago, my daughter was in a production of Little Shop right by you. It was at the old Stone House. Anyway, and she needed a pair of ripped up jeans. And I was like, I gotcha. We took a pair of jeans of her that were about to turn, and I pulled out, a razor and scissors and all the things. I may not know how to fix them, but I sure know how to destroy them. And she was shocked that I could do it. And I was like, well, we did this when I was a kid, because no one in the 70s and 80s was selling distressed items. Having to destroy something in order to have it look a certain way was necessary. Although that was the kind of thing that you could get in a thrift shop, but maybe not as destroyed as we wanted them to look, with
Hmm.
our black Doc Martens when they didn't come out with fancy colors and prints and stuff.
I have a hard time destroying stuff. Like if somebody
Mm.
brings me something, like you brought a dress and I didn't want to touch it. It was that A-line dress. It was perfect. And I was just like, oh, someone will wear this. But I also don't, like if I go to a thrift store or I find a piece of linen that doesn't have any stains or holes, I can't cut into it.
You don't want to do it.
No, I really gravitate to the ones with the stains and the holes. It makes me feel better to cut them up.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love it a lot. Like you've talked about why you do what you want, what you do, but what's something a message that you would really like to send to people?
I don't want to be preachy, but I do
Be
feel like,
preachy.
the fashion industry is the biggest waster except for the oil industry on the planet. And the amount of waste is just crazy. And so I think there are so many ways to be a little more conscious about what we buy. I mean, trying to not to do the fast fashion. And if you're going to do it, buy something that you're going to wear over and over. I'm not against Zara or H&M. I have a couple pieces that I wear to death because I love them. But this idea of just disposable fashion and wearing something once or twice is really devastating our planet, and buying things that are a little more worth it. I mean, I can tell you how many Levi's I find on the street. They're so well made. They don't fall apart. They're quality. If you can afford it, try to buy quality and
Right.
hang on to it.
Right. You were saying the fashion industry, like millions and millions and millions of pounds of fabric and clothing go to waste and end up in landfills. And a lot of those fabrics are not going to
No,
disintegrate over
they
time. In
won't.
fact, aren't there fabrics that utilize petroleum in their
Yes,
processing?
and there is a wonderful organization called Fab Scrap in the Brooklyn Armor Navy Yard. Is that Navy Yard?
Right. I was talking
And
about it yesterday.
they recycle fabric, and they cannot sort their fabric fast enough. I mean, that's how much waste just 7th Avenue has. Just the local fashion industry is giving them garbage bags and garbage bags full of textiles, and they keep having sortathons because they can't get through it. I mean, a lot of it is not recyclable. Cotton and denim are, if they're 100% cotton or denim, but the rest of it has to be shredded into what they call shoddy, like stuffing. And they do
Right.
recycle everything. They recycle it all. But if you go to their warehouse, it's lined with garbage bags all the way up to the ceiling, waiting to be sorted into different ways to recycle it. It's
It's
great.
scary.
Yeah,
It's
it's a great.
really, really scary and so short-sighted you know what it is? We used to change, I mean, I'm a New Yorker, so, 4 seasons. Well, it used to be 4 seasons, not so much anymore, but we would change out the closets, seasonally. I mean, not with every one of the 4 seasons, but the spring and summer stuff came out, late spring. And, we did the same in the fall for fall, winter. But I feel like the clothing manufacturers act like there's 12 seasons a year.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's early winter, there's midwinter, there's late winter, there's early spring, there's mid-spring, there's late spring. And doing that so that with each of those, they can send out new clothing. And one of the things that I find horrific is the need to replace everything for special events. Like, I'm going on vacation. I need a new bathing suit.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
no, I need 4 new bathing suits, which means I need a new cover up, which means I need new flip flops, which means I need a new straw hat, which means I need a new beach bag, which means that, and it's like, well, wait a minute. What is wrong with the things that you have?
Exactly.
If you need to replace them, maybe you didn't like the stuff you got the last. We've all made mistakes, right? We've all made mistakes. We brought it home like, oh, I thought that was going to look better on, or I thought I was going to get a lot of use out of it. There is a reason why the statistics show that Americans, I'm not talking about people of the world, that we wear 80%, I'm sorry, we wear 20% of our clothing 80% of the time. The jeans are right out of the wash. Those are the ones I put on. That favorite white shirt, that favorite, hoodie, that whatever. And I want us all to have favorites that get repeated over and over and over again, but not at the exclusion of the larger part of our closet. And so either most people have more clothing than they need, and definitively have more clothing than they need because so much of it is stuff that they don't even touch or wear. And
Right.
I get the fear of things going to waste. I get the fear of things ending up in a landfill. And just because you donate to a thrift shop doesn't mean that if it doesn't sell, that it's going to find another new life. There are great thrift shops who bring or send their discards to places like you mentioned before, but not all of them do. A lot of them are just looking for the easy way out. And it shocks me that there are retailers who, if things don't get
Oh, yeah, they
sold,
just toss it.
they put them in a sealed bag in the trash because they don't want people to get something for free. And in fact, there are some retailers who will call security on the dumpster divers because they shouldn't be getting these things for free. They should have come in sooner and purchased them in the store. And I'm not just talking about clothing. I'm talking about cosmetics and housewares and
You
other
could
things.
donate it to a shelter. You could donate it to like a million different places.
Exactly.
I know that they're like Rag and Bone takes razors and rips and destroys stuff before they put it in garbage bags on the street because they don't want people to get it for free. It's like, why can't you just donate it? Wouldn't
Isn't it a little ironic that their name has the word rag in it, that they're not willing to let things be rags or make them rags instead of something else? It is kind of horrific, and I don't mind. I mean, I can throw a little Jewish mom guilt around, but doesn't serve me well as a coach. But I do think I'm not here to guilt anybody, but just to communicate. Let's think twice. I think one of the things that I hear often about fast fashion is it's cheap. So I can get it and I won't feel so badly about replacing it because it will not have cost me a lot of money. That's not true. That's not true, because what would happen if you just bought one quality thing?
right?
Sure, it may cost 2 or 3 times, if not 4 times as much as the fast fashion, but it's going to survive you. But I think people are so afraid that someone's going to be like, oh my God, that's last season. I can't believe she's wearing that now. Please, I would rather be wearing things of past seasons
Yes.
than what's current. It's kind of horrific to me. And so I appreciate being able to, in my world of clutter, talk about how maybe not all clutter is bad. If, we're talking, you have the storage space for the things that you're bringing back. And I would love to see you at the store so all that stuff can be there. So this is my little podcast about clutter. And I tell everybody we're talking about clutter, which means I'm also going to ask you about yours. I've been to your home. I don't see any clutter in your home.
Well, you haven't been to the basement. You haven't been to the basement. My husband would disagree.
Fair.
He would be like, and all this stuff on these shelves is all stuff that I find and with tubs of stuff because I get ideas and then I find things on the street, like for a while I wanted to teach kids art. And so I just started collecting art supplies for kids from the street. I have 2 huge bins of kids' art supplies. And someday that will go to, I am going to check out, I think in Industry City, there's a new art supplies store that's all reused stuff. I'm going to check it out this weekend and see if I can bring some of that stuff over. But, blocks and, anything to make stuff. But as I said, I like things. I like collecting things. I like getting things for free. I like finding things. I don't so much love holding on to them. So then I get them and it's not buyer's remorse, but it's sort of like, now what am I going to do?
Collector's remorse?
Yeah, collector's
Scavenger's
remorse. Yes,
remorse?
scavenger's remorse. I always have a couple Goodwill bags by the door, things that I brought in, and then no. Yeah, the basement is,
So
it's a lot.
here's my takeaway. And I tell people this all the time if you're coming to work with me. I'm not a minimalist. I have no interest in being a minimalist. But I know that I am very overwhelmed by clutter and it can paralyze me from getting anything done. And if you came to my house, you'd be like, is she a clutter person? Because I have more photographs on my dining room wall than anybody else could find a way to fit. There are very few empty spaces on the walls. There are paintings and posters everywhere. And that might actually look and feel overwhelming to somebody. And vice versa, someone else may come to oh my goodness, look at this space. There's no clutter. It depends on your threshold. It depends. And it's not a threshold. It's where do you hit that point where this is perfect for you because it gives you pleasure without overwhelming you. And things are visual noise. And I'm not saying that noise is a bad thing because I love the noise that my Hundertwasser poster over there has and the Kandinsky over there and the art that my daughter created. Like this stuff gives me pleasure. And everything has energy. Animate and inanimate objects all have energy. And if the energy in something is positive or good or warming, you have to keep it, use it, love it, experience it, even if the experience is just looking at it. When the things no longer have good energy, they have to go. And at that point, it really doesn't matter who it belonged to or who gifted it to you or how much it cost. All of those things, we have to be willing to let it go. If it's stressing us out or creating other uncomfortable feelings. And so some people may look at your studio and say, wow, but you know where everything is. Everything has its place. And I didn't see your basement, so I'm going to take your word for it. But that in lies the question, how do you determine what is the right amount for you?
Well, it's interesting because I'm thinking this weekend, I want to get rid of all that stuff from all those art supplies. Even if I have to put them on the street, those 2 bins, I am not going to teach small kids art. I can draw the line there. I feel it. There are other things where maybe I will get back to dyeing. So I'm going to keep all those towels with all it, and all that stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that's in the basement. The future projects are down there, bins and bins of jeans that I found on the street. And as I said, all the stuff for the 2 huge bins of stuff for the art classes and extras of stuff, but it does make me realize that would make me happy to get rid of those 2 tubs because it's not just, you'll appreciate this. It's not just getting rid of those 2 things. It's giving away it's getting rid of that idea. That's like cluttering in my mind. That idea of teaching classes. That was like a year and a half ago. And I had this thing and I wrote a proposal. I was going to go to schools. Then I realized, I don't think I like teaching kids. I don't think why did I get this idea? And I also don't want to deal with the parents. I think a couple people.
The parents are worse than the kids.
Yeah. So I kind of got over it. And so why am I holding on to all that stuff? Somebody else can use it.
Right.
So I think that's a great project for this weekend is to if I can't get it to the place in Industry City, I can just take it to, because it's not the kind of stuff that will end up in a landfill. It's nice.
Right.
People will take it off the street or I'll take it to the thrift store down the street.
Right. But you had me think of something that I think is really important. It is knowing the questions to ask yourself in order to determine whether or not you keep something or lovingly let it go. And to ask those kind of questions can be really powerful. Like, is there someone else that could use this more than I could? Or does this serve me anymore? Does hanging onto this item give me joy or give me stress? And just because Nancy's trying to save the earth doesn't mean that she should have to take everything that no one else wants, because then you're not saving yourself, you know? And I'm not saying that that's what you do, but I think it's really valuable for us to know that we can let things go. It just helps to be really clear on why and how, and find comfort in having that clarity.
We moved here 3 years ago from the West Village, and we had a house there, and the basement was kind of full. And it was amazing how much stuff I gave away or sold. I was ruthless. And there's a couple things that I wish I hadn't gotten rid of. But for the most part, I don't even remember what I had. It was rooms full of stuff. I finally had it was January, so it wasn't a great time to be selling like a garage sale. So I just finally had a giveaway, and I put it on Craigslist. I was like, estate giveaway, and people came with trolleys just took everything. But it was things like wrapping paper and just so much stuff.
Right.
And then, of course, as soon as I got here, I started massing more, and then I'll have another purge. But as I said, I like stuff. I didn't buy any of it. I'm just finding it, most of it. But it was quite freeing to get rid of that much stuff. Books. Books. Some people hang on to books.
Books are another hard one.
Yeah.
Books are another hard one. I don't want to call us book hoarders, but we have a lot of books in our house. One of our I talk about helping my mom out with the clutter in her house, and a lot of it is books. And, we have a car, so we will go over to my mom's apartment and take whatever books she's ready to let go of at that time. And then we drive through the neighborhood and we stop at all the places where we know there are those little free libraries and put books in them. And we know there's one that is cookbooks only. It's outside of a kitchen store. Okay. So we know that that's where the cookbooks are supposed to go. And you kind of get to know like which houses predominantly have children's books. And we have a friend in the neighborhood, Lefty. He likes to curate his free library. And so we know where to bring some of that stuff. And so there are beautiful ways, because libraries used to take donations. They don't take donated books anymore. And so for a lot of people, it was like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do with my books? And so those little libraries, what a savior, especially like we live in a 4-family house. It's not our building. We can't put a free library out front. I would if this were my place, And I've heard of ones that have like games and puzzles and things like that in them also. So I think there are ways to be good to the environment and to ourselves and to our thought processes on stuff in pretty positive ways. Nancy, I so loved having you here today.
This is so fun. I love it.
Yay. Okay, so someone's listening or watching and they're like, oh my God, Nancy needs to curate a pair of jeans for me. How are they going to find you? And your information will be in the show notes, but let's loud and clear. How can they find you? I would say
the best way is either DM me on Instagram, floral.av, or reach me through my email, floralavdesign@gmail. And I just want to make a shout out to anybody who has any sweaters with moth holes. Please DM me or email me, and I'll come pick them up if you're local, because I'm always looking to darn sweaters, and they're hard to find. And I know they're going to landfills, and it drives me insane. So,
and those are special fabrics.
Yes,
too.
They are. Melanie, it was really, really fun.
Thank you. Being here. People, if you listened, listen again, this time with video. And if you look at the show notes does have a chapters section, so you can find exactly the point where you want to go back and watch after you've listened. So everybody deserves to have a Nancy Smith or Floral Ave design curated for them, customed, but everyone.
And I do ship. I have people that especially tourists that come to New York and love like my stuff. So
I love that. All right. Thank you. Thank you
so much.
Thank you for listening to Lighten Up the Art of Living Clutter-Free. If this episode resonated, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use just a little bit of lightness. If you're ready for deeper support, you can work with me one-on-one or join my Lighten Up Clutter-Free Mindset Group program. You can find all the details at my website, thoughtfullycoaching.com. Until next time, progress over perfection. Messy action is better than no action at all. So let's lighten up.